Okay, in this video we're going to go over the syllabus together. You're going to notice there's some changes between this syllabus and the syllabus I have online. These mostly benefit you, so don't worry too much, but I'll go through them. First, here at the top you can see that this is section 123. I believe I had it incorrectly labeled as 124, the online history section. As this is an online class, I will not be holding office hours, but I can answer your questions via email. Or if needed, hold a Skype session by request. The course knowledge covers from about the year 1350 to the present, but that's flexible. We'll be talking about events that happened before that, because they're still impacting the time periods that we'll be discussing. Prominent themes include the growth of empires, colonization, decolonization, the development of the global economy, and the eventual development of a global culture. The scientific, technological, and industrial revolutions, nationalism, revolutionary movements, democracy, internationalism, and finally the emergence of a modern society. I'm going to try to get away from the Western-centric view that most world history courses take, but because the 20th century deals with the rise of the West, Western themes will be quite present. Whenever possible, however, we will interact with the cultures in the other parts of the world. This course is a part of St. John's University's core curriculum. You should be familiar with that. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at any time or schedule a Skype session. There's 2 books for the course. Stephen Murillo's Frameworks of World History, Volume 2, and Lynn Miles Murillo, Sources for World History, Volume 2. These should be available as a course pack in the university shop, or you can get them on Amazon quite cheaply, especially if you get them used. Of the 2, we'll be using the Frameworks textbook the most, but we will be using the source book as a supplement, so it's worth picking up. There'll be four assessment quizzes. Previously, in the previous version of the syllabus, I put them as weekly quizzes. I've decided not to do that. I think 4 assessment quizzes is sufficient. These will be delivered online via Blackboard, and each quiz will be due before the corresponding class period. In other words, if the quiz for Chapter 14 is assigned, it will be due at the beginning of the week that we covered Chapter 14 in class. Participation is a part of your grade. This is based on your willingness to discuss reading, lectures, and other materials in class. Because this is online, class participation is obviously online. Each week I'll make the video, lectures, and assignments available by Monday of that week, with assignments being due by the following Sunday morning, so you have about a week to do all of your assignments. Each class beginning the second class meeting, so beginning next week, not this week, which is your introductory week, there'll be a student-led presentation, which I'll discuss in detail in a follow-up video. These will be group presentations. Essentially what you'll be doing is making a Wikipedia page related to an event or a movement or a theme or something discussed in that chapter. Okay, there's a couple of rules we'll go over. You should use primary sources, draw from outside materials, and use, of course, your textbook and source book. They should be brief, 20 to 25 minutes at most, should take to go through them, and you should record your own video, which I'll explain, of yourself going through your Wikipedia page. Each week there'll be a blog entry. The blog entry will address the topics covered in class. I'll usually assign a couple of different possible topics, or sometimes I'll leave it open. They'll be assigned, this is left over obviously from the semester, but they'll be assigned by Wednesday and due that Sunday along with the rest of your materials. So the lecture will be made available by Monday. The short essay will be assigned the latest on Wednesday. There'll be 13 blog assignments, of which 10 count for your final grade. You're encouraged to comment on each other's blogs, constructive comments will count toward your participation grade. Each week there'll be a discussion board with one or several assigned topics. You must make at least one substantial post and contribute to at least one other post. This counts towards your discussion grade. How do I prepare your grade? Prepared writing, your blog entries, and any additional writing, which is rare but could happen. And this counts for 20% of your final grade. St. John's policy requires 12 pages of writing for this level class, especially in the humanities. Most teachers handle this by assigning a 12-page paper or two 5 to 7 page papers. I don't like to do either of those because what happens is I get either 25 bad 12-page papers or 50 pretty bad 5 to 7 page papers, and I find the quality of writing increases with these sort of low stakes weekly writing assignments, and that's why I do it this way. The group work, which I discussed briefly, which I will discuss again in a follow-up video, which I'll make later this week, will count for 10% of your grade and counts for your group work grade, which is, again, a group work component is a requirement of this level course. Your discussions That's my friend's cell phone. Ignore it. All students are expected to participate in discussions on the discussion board, which counts for 30% of your grade. Take the discussion board pretty seriously. I'm going to assign a weekly grade to your posts, but I do keep track of who's posting and how often and what they're posting, and that will count toward your discussion grade. The 4 assessment quizzes delivered via Blackboard. Your first one will probably be in about 3 weeks, due before class. Quizzes will generally consist of free-form answers, term IDs, and/or multiple-choice questions. These 4 quizzes count for 20% of your grade, so 5% each. There's a midterm exam where this is important, the previous rendition of this syllabus did not have a midterm exam. This one does, and this is the final syllabus, as well as a comprehensive final exam that covers all the class material. The midterm and final combined are with 30% of your final grade. What that means is, in theory, they're both worth 15%. But say you tank the midterm and do well in the final. In that instance, I would count the midterm as only 10 and the final as 20. Or vice versa. You do really well in the midterm, do kind of middling on the final. I'll count the midterm as higher. So that 30% can shift in your favor. Grading rubric, which you should be more or less familiar with. I'm not going to read through. You know what an A is. Unexcused absences, in this case, obviously mean you don't do the work for that week, or you don't log into the discussion board for that week. You know what a B is, you know what a C is, you know what a D is, and of course you know what an F is. I have failed students before. It's rare. You really have to work to earn your F. In general, I very rarely give grades of less than a C, and again, you have to earn those grades. You have to really earn your grade of less than a C. Okay? So I'm pretty understanding. I'll work with you, but if you do badly, I will fail you. Attendance is online. Okay? So missing more than 2 weeks of classes will make passing the course very difficult, and missing more than 3 weeks of classes will result in a low participation grade. Class conduct, not as important in an online class because it's online. Normally I would put a spleel in here about no cell phones, that kind of thing, but one thing you need to be aware of is that this is a safe place, and we all have to feel safe to express our views and experiences in ethical, respectful ways. No form of cultural, ethnic, gender, linguistic, sexual, racial, or religious harassment will be tolerated. How to participate in class. Coming to class on time, meaning participating within the assigned week, not doing your work late, having done all the assignments and readings, reading the chapters every week, and participating meaningfully in small and large group discussions, so in your group projects and in the discussion boards. You don't have to be an extrovert or dominate the discussion boards over other students to be a good participant. However, you have to be a good, active listener and try to push yourself not to be continually silent in these group projects. How to submit work. Everything should be proofread. Number all pages, put your name at the top of each assignment. When citing sources, use Chicago style. Guidelines are widely available online. I'll distribute a Chicago style sheet to anyone who's interested, but you can find your own online. It's really not that hard at this point. You know what plagiarism is? Don't do it. St. John's is a very strict policy regarding plagiarism, and it will not be tolerated. Resources available if you're struggling in any way academically. Do not hesitate to utilize them. This is especially important in an online class where you can't talk to me face-to-face. The Freshman Center, if you're still freshmen, is a widely underutilized resource. University Writing Centers for help with your weekly blog entries, also widely underutilized. The Learning Commons, the Tutoring Center, and the Disability and Special Circumstances. If you have a learning disability, you're under no obligation to inform me, but knowing that information can help me make your learning experience better. If you suspect you have undiagnosed issues and want help, I can provide appropriate confidential contact information. We'll go through the course syllabus this week. The first week isn't really a week. It's just the introduction to the course syllabus review, and I might post a small lecture. Next week, we'll begin with Chapter 14 in your frameworks books, Innovation and Tradition. We'll proceed through the book. Chapter 15 the next week, Chapter 16, Chapter 17, Chapter 18. Week 7, October 11th, is our first two-week, two-chapter session, so make sure you're aware of that. And the following week, the 18th, is our midterm exam. Class speeds up a lot after the midterm exam, so make sure you keep up with things. It often catches students off guard. You know, the pace of the class, the pace of the readings is relatively slow up until the midterm exam, and at that point, the class really picks up speed. Our last week of class begins the week of November 30th, and that will also focus on the exam review. The exam date is to be determined, but it will coincide with the university exam week. That's your syllabus. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to email me, let me know. And we should be good. Okay, guys, I will talk to you all later this week when I have a... Oops.